Greetings, St. Patrick's Church. It's good to be with you today. It's May 10th. It's Thursday. It's actually the feast of the Ascension. And so this is the day that we remember that Jesus, 40 days after his resurrection, ascended to the Father. And this coming Sunday, we're going to remember that truth, that reality, and what it means for us on the Sunday after the Ascension. It's also the Sunday we're bringing our four practices, rules of life to church. I'm encouraging you to write up your own rule and make a copy to bring with you, and we're going to create space during Holy Communion when you come up to receive to bring a copy of your real life and set it on our altar as an act of consecration. We're going to bless those and offer those to the Lord, just as a way to kind of physically commit this year to the Lord and your plan to follow Him as a disciple. So we're Anglicans. We think the body matters. We think physicality matters, and that's a way of kind of helping us live into this. But to get ready for Sunday, I want to do one last kind of shot with you of walking through the materialist packet and do a brief overview of the four practices packet, and what it looks like to make a rule of life. So let's go ahead and scroll through the packet a little bit. And it begins, I'm not going to read all this, but it begins with Christ's mission to make disciples of all nations. And that leads to our mission as a parish. And that's making disciples through worship, community, formation, and mission. And those four things that we make disciples through, those four categories, we call those the four practices. So there's worship, there's community, there's formation, and there's mission. So we seek to build the life of our parish as a whole, as a parish focused on making disciples through these four practices. We're working on every one of our ministry areas, answer the question, how do we put these four practices into action? And then we actually invite each person in our congregation, in our parish, to reflect on the four practices and develop a personal rule of life built around them. And as you go through the booklet, it begins with the gospel and baptism and conversion. And I really want to encourage you not to skip over that. That's really critical. The foundation to discipleship is new life in Jesus Christ. And without that, you really can't live as a disciple. It's not just a matter of saying, hey, I want to turn over a new leaf and live differently. And that's what I do to become a disciple. Yes, you have to come into Christ through faith and have a living experience of His presence and power in your life. That's signified and delivered to us in and through and with baptism. And but that's the beginning of our journey. But once that's settled, then we begin to live into the four practices. And the way we encourage each individual to do that is to build a rule of life. And if you look at get my color here. There we go. You look at the document, you have a picture there of a trellis. It's a great picture of what a rule of life is. A rule of life isn't so much a set of rules that you follow, and it's not even practices that are about sort of legalistic adherence to things that make you more acceptable to God. It's a matter of building in your life some habits, some activities, some practices that help you make sure you attend to God. You give attention to God in your life, and you're working on those areas where you can grow in Christ. So on one hand, the practices do a work in us of themselves. They're also a channel through which God works in us. And the four practices, again, are worship, community, formation, and mission. And worship is about loving God. Community is about loving God's church. Formation is about becoming a person who loves, and mission is loving God's world. And we kind of do that triangle and call it the shape of Christian discipleship. Those four things make up the shape of what it means to be a disciple. So as we look at the four practices, as we've kind of evolved this document, evolved this approach in our community, we've come up with, within each practice, two kind of key activities. So in the area of worship, we encourage people to practice worship. By that we mean really a firm commitment to Sunday worship. So we want to say, hey, this isn't something you have to think about. We want to call you to build weekly worship in your life. Second area is the tithe, and that's where we give 10% of our gross income to the Lord through the local church. And so and with that practice, that's something that some of us probably aren't doing yet, and some of us have been doing faithfully for a while, and then everywhere in between. And as I get later in the document, I'll show you a tool that kind of helps you begin to step into that. So that's something that you might need to grow into, and we'll talk about it a little more in a minute. But we want to call people to offer their money to the Lord, especially in our materialistic, consumerist culture. I think it's a critical spiritual practice. Next is community, and we want to encourage everyone really to participate in a community group. We are in the process of sort of revamping and reestablishing community groups, but as we get in the fall, I'm hoping we'll have one or two more groups up so that there's enough space for everyone in our parish who wants to be and can be in a community group to be in one. And the ministry teams, I don't think I need to talk much about that, but these are the teams that do ministry in our church, whether it's children's ministry, hospitality, altar team, chalice bearers, readers, music team, etc. We do ministry as a body, and we encourage everyone to be on a ministry team. This is the area of formation, and that can involve many things, but really the central spiritual formation practice every Christian should build in their life is a practice of daily prayer, a practice of daily Bible reading. Enough said on that. There's some resources we'll come to later. And then mission is really about two things, witness and work. So as we move into the world, we want to learn how to be a witness, and we do a lot of that mainly through the practice of prayer and through blessing others. And then we want to do good works, which really is another way of blessing others, and that can look like just in the everyday warp and woof of our life. It can also look like volunteering at the lighthouse. It can look like supporting a compassion child. But those are two ways we put mission to work in our lives. And as you can see, what's going on here is we want to take these areas and not just say, hey, this is kind of the things we care about as a church, but actually call each one of us to make a personal commitment to living these things out. Okay, I'm kind of going fast. I'm sorry, but I don't want this to be a super long video. There's some information on building a rule of life, so be sure you read through that. It has some good tools. Also, there's the discipleship assessment, and actually, there's supposed to be checkoffs with a yes and no along each of these points in the Apostles' Creed, so you can assess yourself. But this is a good way to kind of review where you're at as a disciple, and can help you think through maybe some things you need to build in your life. Here's the rule of life worksheet. So as you're praying, I want to encourage you to go ahead and make a commitment to the key activities: Sunday worship, the tithe, daily prayer, daily Bible, community group, ministry team, witness works. I think all of us at some level should be committed to those things. Then beyond that, I would encourage you to have no more than one other thing. Now, this is really critical to understand. All of us do a lot more things as Christians in our Christian life, but a lot of those things are things we will do that are just built into our life. So when you think about the one more thing you might do, you want to think of that kind of thing that's important, but it's not urgent. It's important, but it's easy to blow off. It's important, but it's not screaming at you like the volunteer list is to make sure you show up for a meeting. It's something you have to be very intentional about. And again, no more than one per box. You might even not even have one extra for every box. Maybe you just add one more thing beyond the 8 activities that are within the 4 practices. Better to start small and build something over time. This is a long obedience in the same direction. This is a lifelong process of formation. And so you don't want to overdo it. The goal of this is not to create a burden. It's to help you be intentional. Then the last thing I want to show you is towards the end, there's some resources and tools. So we have some ideas for helping you think about worship. This one's really helpful. This is a tool I've used for a number of years. This is just to help you kind of figure out where you are at in your giving and where you need to go next. So we kind of use this ladder, and you want to figure out where you're at on the ladder. And then I would encourage everyone to say, Lord, what's the next step for me on the generosity ladder and grow in that area? You can look at that yourself, and pretty straightforward. Talks about ways to practice community. Talks about children or ministry teams. Excuse me. And then here's some tools about building formation and mission in your life. So those are the worksheets and tools to help you develop your rule of life. Okay, well, that's it for this video. So God bless, and I'll see you on Sunday. Take care.